Tēnā tātou katoa, good evening. Newshub can reveal emergency housing tenants owe the government more than $60 million.
Rent was introduced on the scheme 3 years ago to ease the burden on the taxpayer. But as Lloyd Burr reports, just 22% of those households have paid.
State houses will soon emerge from the ground here. Chris Hipkins giving the site an inspection. Demand for state houses is through the roof. There are currently 24,717 applicants on the wait list.
If the last government had built houses at the rate that we are building them now, we would not have a waiting list.
Many of those on it are currently in emergency housing, motels, holiday parks and other accommodation commandeered by the government.
How many people are in emergency housing at the moment?
Far too many.
Do you know off the top of your head? Have you got a number?
I haven't got the exact number, sorry.
We checked, and as of July this year, there are 3,978 adults in emergency housing and 3,576 children. That's a total of 7,554.
We certainly need to build more and we need to build them faster.
Until that's done, emergency housing it is, and it's not free either. There is a rent called an emergency housing contribution introduced in October 2020. It requires all those in emergency housing to pay 25% of any income they have as rent. But figures obtained by Newshub under the Official Information Act show there's more than $60 million unpaid by emergency housing tenants. Only $17 million has been paid.
These are some of our most vulnerable communities, people who otherwise would be living in cars and on the streets.
Pushing people who are already living below the poverty line into further hardship when they have no home is unfair.
Continuing to house people who don't pay their bills while others languish on waiting lists with nowhere to go, that's a failure of values on behalf of this government.
The arrears aren't treated as debt by MSD, but they still keep a record of it.
What happens if they can't pay it back or don't pay it back?
Look, that's a process that we work through. We have a debt to government process.
When people aren't even able to afford enough kai to put on the table, they can't meet the cost of emergency housing contributions, which is why we need to get rid of them.
Everybody makes a contribution towards their accommodation costs.
The visit to this social housing development was just one of the stops on the campaign trail today. There were also babies. Not just one, but baby after baby, and Hipkins seemed to have the touch.
Do you want to come and have a cuddle with me? Here we go.
2 weeks of the campaign down, 4 to go. Labour will be hoping the baby whisperer is also the vote whisperer. Lloyd Burr, Newshub.